Good morning. Let's see, get this set up a little bit. What's next? We got to go do the daily reflection. Let's do that. Pull the screen over here. Put this over here. Daily. Oops. Uh, Share. Now that I have it in front of me, share it. Daily reflections. Share. Is it sharing? Yes, it is. All right. Friday. Today is Friday, October 10th. October is about 1/3 done. Fixing me, not you, October 10th. If somebody hurts us and we are sore, we are in the wrong. We are in the wrong also. Uh-oh. 12 steps and 12 traditions. What a freedom I felt when this passage was pointed out to me. Suddenly I saw that I could do something about my anger. I could fix me instead of trying to fix them. I believe that there are no exceptions to the axiom. When I am angry, my anger is always self-centered. I must keep reminding myself that I am human, that I am doing the best I can, even when that best is sometimes poor. So I ask God to remove my anger and truly set me free. That is interesting. Yesterday we did one, and it also was a, yeah, this is probably your problem, kind of prescription where it said, if you're out of sorts, well, let's go look. It's right here. Just push the button. It is a spiritual axiom that every time we are disturbed, no matter what the cause, there is something wrong with us. Wonder if they did that on the 8th. I didn't. When we were wrong, promptly admitted it. Continue to take personal inventory. Fear says, you dare not look. Self-searching. The wise have always known that no one can make much of his life until self-searching becomes a regular habit. That is a thing. So here we are. If we're angry, if we're disturbed, it's because there's a resonance, right? They've pushed our button. There was a button there that could be pushed. I had a somewhat tense conversation with my wife last night, and it's not really her fault, um, but it's a tension that we have between us. I see her. Um, she she's precious. So I want you to know she's precious, not in a bad way. She's precious, like in a good way. She gets frustrated talking to her dad because she thinks my her dad is 85 years old or something like that. I'm not sure exactly which year, but one of those mid 80s years. And she'll tell me, "Oh, he's just been watching Fox News. I can't talk to him because he's been watching Fox News," and so he's got like he's on a track. He's been told that he's on a track. And she gets very frustrated with that. Well, then I get frustrated with her because sometimes she's on a track, and she gets frustrated with me because I'm on a track. So being on a track is a thing, and it happens to people, normal people. You'll get and I get on here and I talk, and I'm on a track probably most of the time, just so you know. Uh, um, so we got in this conversation, and she was like um, really upset about the is it a Kennedy guy, the Health and Human Service, the health guy, and about his autism's everything autism and being anti-vaccine and things like that. And she says he's he- he's killing people. Well, as far as I know, he hasn't shot anybody, but his policies probably I can agree with her that they're. So we worked on finding a source of connection that she and I agree that he's probably not the best man for the job. I think there might be something good come out of it that he's focusing on, kind of the thoughts and minds or raising awareness kind of thing where he's like, well, autism is something we should be paying more attention to. Okay, I could go for that. But she's convinced, and maybe she's right. She might be right. Maybe I'm not upset enough. Maybe I should be really upset. Maybe I should be like the guy who just shot Charlie Kirk and be so upset that I do something about it. Don't just stand there. And that's kind of a conversation that we've been having in TLC land is how long, when is it appropriate for me to quit just standing there, whether I agree or disagree? Why am I not upset? Why should I be upset? And all these kinds of what 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 should my reaction be? Well, we ended up having a reasonably good conversation, and why is she upset about it, and why am I not as upset as she would like me to be, and am I actually listening to her, or am I passing off her concern? And there's all sorts of like people connection things that need to be pretended to, and make sure that I'm off at my job now. I go to my job. For a long time, my job was at home, and she knew where I was, and she could come in and tell me, "You should see this thing I just saw," or I could do that with her. "You should see this thing I just saw." Well, now she's saves it up for the end of the day, and I probably do too. But I'm not watching very much stuff because my job is such that I'm running to catch up, and not yet really that sure if I can actually do all the things they want me to do. So, um, what should we do about the situation? Not there are situations that we can change. Part of the thing in AA is to know the difference, right? The things I can change and the things I can't change. That's in the Serenity Prayer. Let me make sure that I'm still getting out. Oh, yeah, says I should be. The things I can change in this conflict is I can change my attitude. So the instant like dislike of hearing someone on their track like raging about the thing that they saw on the internet. Um, there are things that I can calm in myself. Good morning, Tunji, to make that experience not so bad. And there are things that we need to adjust as a couple because she's by herself all day. And I did before we were done. I said, you would be good if you could get out of the house more during the day, not just physically out, because she is physically out. She goes on long walks and things like that, but be around other people because being starved for a conversation and then having a conversation at the end of the day. And I'm kind of the other way. I've been like people, 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 and come home and like to sit and read a book. So we're figuring this out. There are things that we can accomplish, but it was an interesting evening and ended well. We are good arguers, the two of us. We do a good job. Um, I'm convinced, like to my to the to my soul, that she is on the right track as far as what she wants and the things that she wants for the people that she cares about. So there's no, you've gone too far. I can't live with someone who, no, that's not right. So anyway, how did I get to this? Well, I was talking about the fixing me, not you, the daily reflection. If somebody hurts us and we are sore, we are all in the wrong also. That there's something about us that um, well, one of the ways to solve this problem is historical way is to not be around people that hurt us, right? It's like, oh, they hurt me. They said something I didn't like to hear. You end up lonely. You'll end up by yourself if that's your only tool. Um, if you're going to work with other people in the world, which you have already done, you have to either like compartmentalize the parts of them that you can't stand, or come up with ways of excusing or explaining, not even maybe excusing, but explaining, well, sometimes he doesn't sleep so well and so he's kind of grouchy, or he has a tummy ache, and that makes puts a frown on his face where he's not really upset about you, he's upset about something else or whatever. It's been interesting. Um, I was gone from the daily reflection for a couple of weeks, and so I'm catching up. So it's interesting that where we're at. You know what I should do is I should go look and see what the 10th step is because I don't know what it is. Let's see if we can find that. AA.org steps. The 12 steps. I've looked this up before. The ninth step was make amends. The 10th step is to continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admit it. That is a challenge. That is a challenge. I've noticed as an older person that I have more leeway in things like apologizing or admitting my mistakes. You would think that, I don't know, I thought when I was younger that older people were more likely to be right and deserve like some deference for being right. And maybe that's how I get away with it, but I can actually apologize and have less to pay for it, have less repercussions as I get older, and I'm not sure exactly how that mechanism works. Um, I can be less right and don't have to be. I mean, I talk like I know what I'm saying. I guess I think I do, but I'm hoping that's why I put that little tagline saying self-contradictory things because I do that. Um, I appreciate that people look at me and give me some respect for, gray hair, bald head, or mustache. I don't know why. I think that's appropriate to have some deference toward experience, but I want I want someone who's in their 40s or 50s to start making that shift where you don't have to have such a front all the time, and you can start like peeling it off to a certain degree and helping people see the truth of attainment or lack of attainment or continuous struggle. Maybe that's the way to put it. Everybody who's 85 years old, and you would think that their desires or their habit forming or whatever is all done, and that they've got whatever's going to happen has already happened. But there's daily, are you going to get up and make your bed? And are you going to have a good eat well? And are you going to get your exercise? Some of those things actually get harder as you get older. If you've been exercising and then your body is finding these painful ways of telling you it doesn't want to do that anymore, it gets to be more of a challenge, not less of a challenge. So I'm rambling. I'm sorry, I'm rambling. Good morning, Tunji. Good morning, Chad. And that one other name there is Chris. That's me. So, um, what have I watched on YouTube? Let's see. So I'm still learning a lot from the AA Daily Reflection. Very interesting stuff. My most recent job, not the job I'm on now, we would have a daily stand-up meeting. And it was supposed to be short, but it really did. I enjoyed it. Uh, for one reason, I've worked a long time by myself. And so just to have somebody I could talk to and say, here's what I'm trying. Do you think that will work? Or here's what I did and here's the result. And that's not what I expected. That was very helpful. Um, but also to like, am I doing what the boss wants me to do, and am I being successful in his eyes, that kind of thing. It's good to kind of get a. So anyway, we had those every day stand-up meeting. But it had to do with collaboration as much as anything else. So we were all kind of moving in the same direction. Then now the new work I have they don't do that, and in fact, I've been there a month, and we've had one meeting about, like, a high-end issue, like, how are we gonna solve this issue? Um, and I could use more of that. So now there's another guy there that's doing similar things to what I do, and I think I'm supposed to kind of mentor him a little bit because he's new also. Well, he was in a different part, and then they moved him in. Um, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to give him direction, but I think I'm supposed to help him, develop, the quote unquote right way or good practices or something. So anyway, I could use more meetings, and I'm not sure if that's allowed. Can I set a meeting? So we'll see. I might like set a meeting with my boss and figure out what I'm allowed to do and what I'm not allowed to do. But I've already done some things that I wasn't sure if I was allowed to do by just doing it and see what would happen. So, so I asked for stuff. I wanted to requisition stuff, so I requisitioned some stuff, and they actually spent money. And it's like, oh, okay, I can ask for things. So that was good. All right, what we're gonna do? We're gonna look at what I've been watching on YouTube. I have to change the screen that I'm share this tab instead. They have a thing for that. I did remember that. Friday Morning Nameless. Chad was on yesterday, and then I was on after Chad, I think. I got on and I didn't look very well to see if Chad was on. Seems like a phenomenon related to loss of connection to community in general. Yeah, that's true. So I talked a little bit about my wife not having human connection while I'm gone during the day, and she is on the phone. And I'm glad I mentioned that she gets frustrated with her the meeting thing. Yeah, I mentioned that she gets frustrated with her dad, and sometimes he gets on a track from Fox News and um, has this feeling to her that he's just kind of giving the party line, kind of that he doesn't really know or hasn't really given it much thought, but he's asserting things because that's what has come his way. And um, what was I going there? The reason I was bringing that up is I encourage her to continue to make that connection. She talks to her dad on the phone almost every day, and that's really important. There are people that are important enough that you should talk to them, even if you don't want to hear what they have to say. They are that important. You must maintain connection, and he is that important. And because if she misses 5 days and then finds out that he's been in the hospital or been in another fender bender and got himself hurt, that will be a high price to pay for the discomfort of calling him on the phone and him saying, "Oh yeah, did you see what this guy did today?" It's just yeah, yeah. There are people that you want to connect with almost no matter what they have to say, just because you need to stay with them. All right, what am I watching? I guess one of the reasons I brought that up was my history. Let's go look at my history. I just watched something about the small world phenomenon. What was that called? This is on Veritasium. Veritasium. I'm not sure how to say that. We simulated can reach anyone.
Everything is getting more expensive. A place to live.
That?
Well, but it's almost like you can't go any faster.
See, I'm in
Yeah.
the middle of that. That's what comes in the middle is because I'm on the middle of that. They're talking about the connections in the world. That's from 9 days ago. Very interesting stuff. And they talk about how you're mostly connected with your small cloud of people, but there are other people that are like shortcut people that will get you into other clouds of people. So here I am talking on the internet with Tunji, and Tunji is in Norway and he's from Italy. And it's like, I don't meet people like that at the grocery store. There's nobody, as far as I know, there's nobody at my church who has connections in Norway and Italy. So this is a shortcut. Also, the age thing. If you only hang out with people your age, if you only hang out with people that are nearby. Now there are like they talk about how there are lightly held acquaintanceships, and then there are strongly held friendships, and there are like family connections that it would be painful to brush off, even if you should brush them off. And marriages are also kind of that way. They become so implanted that chopping them off would be like chopping a major branch off a tree. Chad says it seems ever since the world shrunk, it went faster too. Yeah, that is true. I don't think they talk about that, but they do talk about how the internet has made things so that these shortcuts, there's more shortcuts. And I wanted to get rid of that. There we go. Not like I want it gone, but there we go. That these shortcut things are making more interconnection. But then they get into talking about how, like in a model of bad things, how fast can bad things move through this more shortcutted network? And it turns out that bad things, along with good things, can move much faster through the network. So that may be, Chad, what you're talking about is that these things, the changes and they equate it with a nervous system, that we're all each sensors in this nervous system, and something like, Twitter is where the interconnections happen, and something can come and have a virusy, how would you say how a virus works? It works virusy. Have this filling effect where people that are connected to the nervous system, know that this thing is happening, and you might not know because you're not following the right person, but eventually one of the people you follow is connected into somebody else who's kind of a hub of these kind of movements, and it'll come to you. It's like, this is a thing. Well, you might need to turn that dial up or down as far as the volume of what a difference it makes in your life. Yeah, the current moment. How dialed in you are to the zeitgeist. That's what I guess they call it, the zeitgeist. These German guys came up with some word. Um, you may need to know every minute what's going on, or maybe not. Story's life is roughly 14 days at the Algos timeline. So I did some math. Oh, I'm interested in hearing what this has to say, Chad. What did the math tell us? Question was something like, there we go. The Algo timeline. The dog years, 7 years. What was the one in Ted Lasso? Be a goldfish. A goldfish's memory is only like that long, and so it takes that long to get everything, populate the complete nervous system of the goldfish, and then he's on to something else in about that much time. Uh, an algo year is an algo. Oh, like a dog year. An algo year is 2087. That fish thing, that's true. I read that in a fishing book one time about how fish have an actual measurable um, attention span. So you're out there casting at the fish, and he goes for the lure, right? And you would think, oh, that fish, he won't do that again. Well, you just cast at this other one for 4 or 5 casts. It's not very long. It's like 30 seconds or something. It's enough that you have to have a little bit of patience. 2 minutes. I don't remember what the number is. And you can cast at that guy again, and he'll come again. If he found it interesting the first time, he'll probably find it interesting the second time. But you have to be aware that it takes a little while for the fish to reset. And if you go this way and then you come back, then you can just do it again. I took this seriously. I don't know what its significance is. That's an interesting. You're right. I'm thinking the question I have is I wonder if the algorithms we talk about people playing the long game, right? Individuals have this attention cycle, nervous system cycle, and how long is the long game, and what things are the short game that I'm just not paying attention to. Like my wife might know that, every Thursday I have a happier mood or something like that. That would how what is my goldfish time scale that's like I'm sure I have one. If goldfish do, I'm sure I do. I have a pretty long memory. Now that's not necessarily going to get any better. It'll probably get shorter as life goes on, but I'm not a goldfish, but I am. There's a you can probably fool me the same way if you wait long enough. Um, yeah, I don't know what human timelines are and what things are going on that are beyond that timeline. The words are their food and their senses are activated by our words and eyes and scroll speed. Yeah, and then we've got the AI thing. So what's the timeline of an AI? Well, they don't seem to have any, as far as we can tell, they don't seem to have anything that's like a purpose or aspiration. If they did have an aspiration, it's not doesn't seem to be detectable from what I've heard. I don't know. I don't mess around with AI. I'm going to stay away from that stuff if I can possibly do it. Um, I don't know. But then we're back to our daily reflection is that if something is pushing my button, it's because I have a button to be pushed. And if it's getting my attention, it's because there's something in me, somewhat spiritual in nature, maybe completely, that needs to be fed or adjusted, just like hunger, just like I'm thirsty now. It might take me a minute to figure out that I'm hungry or thirsty, and it probably will take me even longer to figure out that I'm lonely or frustrated. Probably the people around me will know it before I do. Um, but that's a something that if I want to be like a well-regulated person, it would be good for me to know if well, I mean, I'm thinking of that kind of defensively, like not having a button that people can push, at least to know why I'm tender in that spot, why that thing bothers me, other things don't. I already know that about myself about certain topics. I've talked on here about the algorithms are spiritual in nature. Well, that might be, yeah, I'm not sure about that. I have to think about that. Um, I know that there are already topics I've talked about how the algorithm on YouTube will throw me into John Wick, um, the what's the one I can never remember that name. Equalizer, you know, the Equalizer and the um, finding the bad guys and lopping all their heads off. Although they don't actually, they usually shoot them because it's much cleaner on television. Um, the avenging angel that's a thing with me that it's like, yeah, if I was going to fall into that, then I can imagine myself being the guy who says, Charlie Kirk must die. That kind of, yeah, no, I don't want to go there, and I don't want that to be fed, even if it's on appropriate justice. I don't want to take some delight in destroying. Um, I would like to have the appropriate appreciation for good over evil, but I don't want to take delight in being the avenging angel. That's not my job. Kirk's story died after about 14 days. Yes, that's true. Yep. Yeah, that's true. So I got a lot out of the daily reflection today with that. There's probably, if you're hurting, at least part of that is because there's something about you that is reacting. You don't want to stop it necessarily. I mean, maybe your reactions are right. Um, um, we talk a little bit about Mark Parker here, bless his heart. I live in the South, so I can say bless his heart. And he's been an interesting um, sore spot finder. I don't know if he's going to. I don't think he's going looking for sore spots. That would be kind of a not good thing. But he has found a couple, and I I have learned some things from his probings. Some good, some bad. So it doesn't. It's not necessarily. You want to do things like that though, in a controlled environment. You know, you go to the doctor and he gets out the little hammer. I don't think they do this very much anymore. You used to do it. Get out a little hammer and tap you on the knee, and it twitches your leg. Tap, twitch, tap, twitch, tap, twitch. He's exploring your nervous system, but you're doing it in a controlled environment, right? It's an experiment, but it tells him things about what's going on in your nervous system. Now, they don't do it much anymore, so maybe they can figure that out with other means. I don't know. Um, um, I saw what you wrote there, Chad. That's an interesting question, and it's already after 6 o'clock, so I may have to turn this over to you. Probing things is not necessarily a bad thing. It's that just like when you bang your knee into the end table, not at the doctor's office, it's uncontrolled. It may cause real damage, and also it's surprising. You're on the way doing something else, and all of a sudden, pow! Which I don't do that very often, but I can imagine that happening. And your leg does that. That's or your elbow. I'm more likely to hit my elbow that way, and it's like, oh yeah, okay, I have that spot. So it's useful to know what some of the spots are before you're stumbling around in the dark and have to deal with it on the fly. Tunji says they do it to me, or my daughter likes to hammer. That's funny. Chad says, I'm curious how long, I think he went to say long there, long the attention span for a story would last even 30 years ago, and what does this mean for us? Internet-driven stories seem very intense contractions of grasping needs. Yeah, but that would be interesting. I bet there's people who have studied that, because you could look at like newspapers or something to figure out, how long it took for things to make its way from some place like the death of Abraham Lincoln or something like that. How long did it take for that news to get places? Well, by then they had telegraph, um, and transcontinental telegraph, I believe, by the time Lincoln was assassinated, and they probably went pretty fast. Um, but we're living in a time when things are more widespread and move. I would say they move faster because everyone has this thing in their hand and looks at it. My wife sends me a text and she said, or just posted on Facebook, did you see what I post on Facebook? And then I say, no, I've been at work and I don't look at Facebook very much while I'm at work. If I'm looking at Facebook, I'm not working. I don't know why no one pays you to research. I don't know. Um, yeah, I don't know. You could you could apply for a researcher's job and see what happens. And they might say, well, how do we know you can do this? And you'll say, I don't know. You could trust me or whatever. I don't know what to tell you. I'm not sure that researchers make that much money. You might want to check that out because I've been in a situation where it's like, yeah, I could do that job. I'd like to do that job. And then, even did a little bit of training in that direction and then found out like those people don't make any money. So, yeah, I don't know what to tell you about that. Well, I got to go. It's 10 minutes after 6, so I got to go. Um, I hope your day goes well. And if you trip on something in the dark, make a note of, and then maybe you could research it later in a confined environment about why does that hurt when somebody touches that spot? Oh, there she is. Good morning. Come on in. I'm hanging up. See you guys later. Bye bye.